All right, welcome back. Here we are about to enter Chapter 6 of our Mice and Mystics playthrough. And this chapter is entitled Barksburg Fields. And in true classic fashion, it is a reference to what will one day be known amongst the mice denizens of the land as the Battle of Barksburg Fields. And what we're looking at here basically is the mice are trying, plot-wise, to get word of Venestra's plans to the neighboring kingdom of Nextor. The difficulty they face is they are mice and are not going to have a significantly quick overland movement rate, let's put it that way. Venestra seems to be right on the cusp of enacting her plans, and of course the mice are going to try to sabotage those plans as much as they possibly can, but they do need to get word to the neighbors so that they know, first of all, that an attack is coming, so that maybe they can prepare and try to fend it off, but also secondly that the king, Andon, is not to blame, basically. So I guess the thought is if we're sending warning, then obviously the surprise attack is no longer a surprise attack. We've robbed ourselves of any advantage, and please believe the people who are giving you this warning. It wasn't this guy, it was somebody else. So you kind of have instant credibility when you warn people, and hopefully they buy that in, and at least future tensions can be avoided between the two kingdoms. So that's plot-wise where we're at. But in order to do that, they have to get word to Nextor at some kind of pace. Now, they, in the previous chapter, have defeated the house cat Brodie, and this chapter here is about getting into the courtyard and having the cat, in virtue of the fact that we bested him last time and we've kind of promised him a bit of catnip if he cooperates with us, we're going to have him catch the crow for us, force the crow to agree to our little bargain, and that will enable us to force the crow to carry our message faster than we ever could all the way to Nextor, and as a result, our next door neighbors are going to have that warning and hopefully believe that Andon is not at fault. So that's pretty much where we're at plot-wise. Mechanically, the way this is going to work is we need to find a way to defeat the crow before the hourglass marker reaches the chapter end marker on the track. And you will win if you do defeat them and all the minions, so defeat the crow and all the minions on the courtyard tile before you run out of time. If the hourglass marker does reach the end, or if all the mice are captured, game over, as usual. We start on page 6, and we're going to use 4 mice, and the only restriction here is that Nez must be one of the 4 mice for reasons that will become apparent in a minute. We also want to note that if you are not playing a campaign, you have not actually played Chapter 5, therefore you would have no way of knowing that you're supposed to have the Brodie's Claw achievement in hand. And yet that is going to come into play during the course of this chapter, and as a result, it has a note here to tell you to add that to your party stash so that when it comes time, you're not like, wait, where should I have gotten that? Did I miss something in the chapter? What's going on? The encounter deck is similar to last chapter. We're going to have all the difficult cards shuffled on the bottom, and then we're going to have 3 randomized standard cards face up on top of that. So our first 3 encounters will be standard. The next several will be difficult. The setup is as such, and it's actually a little bit complex here because you are depending on whether you're playing the campaign or not, and then if you are playing the campaign, depending on how last chapter played out, you're actually told to start in different places. I won't get into my speculations as to why this is the case, but basically, if you haven't played Chapter 5, or if you beat Brodie in the dining hall, which, if you recall, we did, Then you start in the dining hall. And maybe the thought there is you start in the dining hall because that's where you were, and then you're maybe the plot wise, maybe it's just as simple as we are continuing exactly from where we left off. Maybe that's all it is to it. If not, if you haven't played the campaign, or if you beat Brodie in the kitchen or in the alchemist chamber, then you start in the kitchen instead. Once you place all the minion figures and everything, sorry, the mice figures and everything, you reveal an encounter card to begin. So there's no special setup or anything like that. There is a special rule here, and this is gonna let me get out of the sequence of the way it's presented here in the chapter and kind of give you a rough idea. The courtyard's on the flip side of this tile. We're starting here, and of course there are underground tiles beneath all of these that then connect, well, from here and from here, that connect to this here, and then we use the flip space to go to the courtyard. But before we get to the courtyard, we have to go into the kitchen, because in the kitchen is a Tinkerer's Treasure special search area, similar to the one in Chapter 1. The issue, though, is we're not going to use the Tinkerer's Treasure the way you normally use it. Instead, we're going to give it to Nez, and this is why Nez has to be there. And he's going to use the claw that we purloined from Brodie last time. Remember, we defeated Brodie, and we took his claw, and we didn't really know why, but we did. And as a result, we have that claw. Nez will then have to potentially struggle a little bit to use the Tinkerer's Treasure in conjunction with the claw in order to turn the claw into a horn that he can blow as a signal. And that's what in the end of the chapter is going to summon Brodie and potentially a little help as well. But there is a rule for how that works out, and we'll just deal with that as it comes. But suffice to say, Nez is going to have to roll some dice and try to be successful in building it. And if he's not, time will start to waste away, and that could be potentially a real big problem for us. We again are going to be starting in the dining hall. And one thing that's nice about the dining hall is up on the table, you can search for a teleport scroll. That's pretty handy, especially on that last tile. Now, I'm not going to go through all the rooms because there are a lot of different things and special searches and everything like that. I'm just going to give you a quick primer, and you see how it plays out in the end. But here's the rundown. We have the teleport scroll here. If we go down a floor, we can get a grape in the tunnels, which is pretty cool. In the kitchen, you can get the Tinkerer's Treasure, and there is a flip space, so you can go to the kitchen tunnels. But the only thing that's in the kitchen tunnels, I believe, is a dinner fork. And that's not especially useful or necessary in this particular chapter, except maybe possibly in if you go down here to the sewer. Now, if we do go to the sewer, then we can also find the fish scale armor, which is potentially, it does have a benefit when you're facing Brodie, at least insofar as you can kind of use it to manipulate or control how Brodie is moving, which is potentially handy. But basically, we have to go to the kitchen, and then we want to get to the courtyard over here. The kitchen tunnel does not connect to either the sewer or to the dining tunnel. And as a result, I don't think I'm going to go into the kitchen tunnel, because then I would just have to bop right back out again. And the only reason I would do that would be to face an encounter and maybe get the dinner fork, which I don't really care about getting in the first place. Now, the other side of this is if I do go this way down into the tunnels, that tunnel does connect here. This tunnel does connect here. So I can go either left or right, as it were. I can go loop around to the bottom and loop around over the top to get to this tile here. I don't have a lot of reason to go both directions, so I kind of pick a path. And ultimately what's going to side that, because it's a tile either way, is the fact that here, underneath here, you have to deal with the water, which is always a pain. Now, you can get the fish hook, but you don't really need it on the next tile. I mean, maybe if there's mousetraps, it's kind of nice, but it's not a big deal. And then you certainly don't use it or need it in the courtyard. So The main benefit here would be the fish hook, and then you have to deal with the fish scale, and then you have to deal with the water. Whereas if you go this way, you get a grape, and you don't have to deal with water. You just bop right over here. So what I think I'm going to do is I am going to start here. I am going to move to the kitchen, and then I'm going to come back here so that I can go down here and get a grape and come over this way. I'm not super afraid of the sewers, but why not make it easier on myself? And then more importantly, when I get to the courtyard, I do have to deal with all the minions there. And when you get to the courtyard, it's a big, big fight. And there are a healthy number of roaches involved. So it would be very handy to have that grape in tow. All right, so that's my plan. Basically, I'm going to start here, bop up to the kitchen, come back, drop down, move over, bop up, and I'll be in the courtyard, and I'll have to deal with all of the big war that is involved there. It gets involved. There's a lot of moving parts there. It's all very intuitive. It's not going to confuse you, but it's kind of cool and a little bit dramatic. So I'm going to save that for the end of our chapter and show you how all of that works. But basically, we're going to try to get there with the grape in tow, and of course with the Tinkerer's Treasure, and use that to change the claw into the horn so that we're ready for that courtyard when we get there. That's pretty much the lay of the chapter. Let's go ahead and pick our mice and get going. All right, so here we are in the dining hall where we are starting, and once again, that is because we have done chapter 5 and we did beat Brodie in the dining hall, so we're kind of resuming in that same spot. The party I've elected to go with this time is, of course, as you are required, you have 4 mice and one of them has to be Nez, so that kind of speaks for itself. Unsurprisingly, I have Tilda in there. I feel like when you can have her, she's indispensable, especially when she has that really nice item, the warding staff, because she's rolling 3/3. She's actually a really solid combatant on top of being an incredible healer in all situations. So no brainer as far as that goes. The other 2 mice, less obvious. Maginos, once he has the Scorching Wand and Meeps, I feel is pretty beastly. And he does also have the flexibility of things like Chain Lightning and Mystic Bolt once he gets it, Mystic Blast once he gets it, and so forth. So, you know, really, really nice, flexible, powerful guy. The only thing is he's a little low on the armor and therefore potentially fragile. But with invisibility, he kind of makes up with that too. So I like bringing Maginos. I could just as easily have been convinced to bring Colin or Filch because I love both of them as well. For some reason, Meeps just puts it over the top for me. When you really want to kill a boss or something nasty, you throw Meeps on it and everybody gets a damage dice reduction or a defense die reduction. That's just too nice to pass up, and it's pretty cheap too. So I feel like he's solid and he boosts the whole party. So that's why I'm taking him. Lily, honestly, right now I feel is outclassed by everyone in my party. But a big part of that, remember, is because, you know, Nez has that Thimble Helm, so his defense doesn't suck. Tilda has an incredible item that makes her awesome. Maginos is rolling decent attack without having to spend an ability, which allows him to use Meeps in conjunction with it, so he's good because of an item. Filch is awesome because of the accurate bow, among other things, and Colin with the extra die. Colin's great all around, even without an item, but the big thing for me with Lily is she has nothing. She's got no item worth speaking about. She's carrying the Whisker Froth, but like whatever. So I'm just using her basically because I think I can get through this with her, even though she's kind of a liability right now. But I'm hoping during the course of a bunch of searches throughout the course of this chapter, and remember with Nez in my party, even though there's a special search in the kitchen that gives you the Tinkerer's Treasure, you could always find that on top of it because it is in the search deck. So you could happen upon the Tinkerer's Treasure as part of that, at which point he could turn that into a nice item for Lily on the spot. But yeah, I'm just hoping she gets something she could use, even that shifting cloak or something like that. I think that's available to her. But anyway, we'll just have to see what comes up. I'm using her primarily to try to get her an item. If she's not in the party, I can't get her an item the way that I'm doing the after action resolution. So that's pretty much it. And there's really not a lot to this tile, special rules wise. There is a teleport scroll up on the table, and I definitely want to get that. That's actually another reason to bring Maginos, because I believe teleport requires a 3 lore, and he right now would be the only one who has that. But in order to kick things off, we are just going to draw a search card and heave 2. So let's go ahead and do that. Draw an encounter card, I mean to say. And our encounter is, not a good way to start. This is 5 greedy roaches. Let me go ahead and grab those guys. Where did I put the bad guys? Here we are. Okay. Adding them to the initiative, and we're dropping 5 of them on the map. That's a pretty horrible way to start. We've got 4 entry spaces for the 5 roaches, but we can spread them out however we like. So I'm going to put the 5th one down here. And we'll shuffle initiative. And Nez is the only one who's going before the roaches go. That's a whole lot of bad luck to start off. But hey, we are where we are. Let's dive in and let's get going. So we'll roll to see what Nez can do, and he can move 4 spaces, which doesn't do a whole lot. Hopefully 1 or 2 of these guys won't reach us. I think pretty much all 3 of these, unless this guy rolls a 1, he can't. He might not be able to reach us if he rolls a 1. This guy's guaranteed to reach somebody. This guy's guaranteed to reach somebody. So I think what I might do is just bop over here and try to smack that roach. Now, I guess there is one somewhat saving grace in the roaches going first, in that the big danger with roaches, the greedy roach, the virtue of regular roaches is your cheese counts as hit points, so it's really hard for them to actually do any damage to you, other than just taking away some of your cheese. The greedy roaches, by contrast, you don't want to be taking your cheese, you'd almost rather take a wound than give up your cheese because it goes on the wheel. And with all of these tiles we have to get through, and a big fight at the end, we don't have a lot of luxury of time on this chapter. But the virtue of the roaches, the greedy roaches here, going so soon is Nez is pretty much the only one who could even possibly have any cheese to take. And if I put him here and attack this roach, then he's not going to get attacked by anybody. So even if he does get cheese, as long as he kills that roach, nobody has any cheese to add to the wheel at all. So the roaches become a hit point threat, but not a chapter-wide threat in the way that they normally do. So let's see what he does to this roach, rolling 4 melee dice, and he gets 2 bows and 2 shields, so that is a guaranteed kill. And the roach did not cheese the wheel, so that guy is gone. Okay, off to a decent start, and we'll see what the roaches do. We'll check first of all, see how far this guy can move. Only 1 space. That is excellent. He comes here and doesn't hurt anybody. This guy here can only move 2, so he'll go 1, 2. And again, he can't reach anybody. This guy here can go 3, so he can go 1, 2, 3, and he will then attack Maginos. He rolls 2 cheese, so he doesn't hurt anybody, but even though I don't have any cheese to eat, he's still cheesing the wheel. And then this guy can't fail to attack somebody, but he can fail to get into the space, so he then attacks Tilda, hitting once, versus her 3 defense. She blocks and gains a cheese for herself, which might or might not be good. But we've got 4 mouse turns to go before the roaches get to go again, so I can start hopefully smushing some of these guys. And I think what Maginos is going to do is, first of all, roll to see how far he can move. Only 3. I think he's going to bop up onto the chair, just because I need to get somebody up here at some point, and I have nobody that can do it in 2 moves anyway, so he might as well do that. And then I'm going to have him fire at... it really doesn't matter at this point. All the roaches are going to be able to attack me, but he has to attack the adjacent roaches. So he's going to come here, and he's just going to fire regularly his 3 ranged dice. He hits once, and it is blocked. So Maginos goes nowhere. Do I want to do anything with him? Yeah, actually, I think I'd rather. I think I'm going to trade that cheese with Tilda, take it, and then I'm going to spend it. I could spend it on invisibility to make himself invisible so they're only attacking these guys. Or I could spend it on Meeps to try to make it that much more likely that one of these guys is taken out. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to spend it on Meeps against this guy right here. So this guy I will give a Meeps icon to. Alright. And Tilda now I think is going to come here to serve as a bulwark. I don't think she can fail to get to that space, and she's going to attack that roach. She's going to gain a cheese, which is actually unfortunate, and then hit once, but it's not blocked. So that roach is gone. And then Lily is going to fire at the Enmeepst roach over here with her bow. And yeah, I think that's all she's going to do. She's going to hit twice. Since he's rolling 0 defense, that roach is dead. Now, she doesn't do anything. And note, she didn't get cheese when she started on the tile. It's only when you explore a new tile, when you're starting out on a tile, she doesn't get any cheese. Maginos is visible. I think I'd rather have her get attacked than Maginos, especially given that she doesn't have any cheese. So I think what I'm going to have her do is move into the space here with the roach. And then Nez, I think, is going to roll his movement, and I'm going to have him come into that same space, but then he's going to attack this roach so that he can roll his 4 dice. And he gains 2 cheese and hits once. We'll see first of all if that roach defends or not. He does defend, which is unfortunate. And so what he's going to do is actually trade and give his cheese to Lily to get it off his person. Because I have 2 roaches, they're attacking in order, so they're going to go after Nez and then Maginos in order. Or actually, no. No, I'm sorry. This guy is going to attack the closest, so they're going to attack Nez and Tilda. So I take that back. He's not going to trade with Tilda. Let me get that back. What did I just do? I traded 2 cheese to Lily. Lily has 2. Okay, so he's going to get that back from Lily, and he's actually going to trade it because he is still adjacent with Maginos. He's going to trade it to Maginos to guarantee that those roaches are not facing any cheese unless they're rolled in defense, which there's really nothing I can do about that. Okay, so that is Nez's turn. We come now to the greedy roaches. This guy here will attack Nez. It's 2 attack. He misses completely. This guy here will move into the space and attack Lily. He hits once versus her 2 defense. She does not block, but she does not have any cheese, so she simply takes a wound. We come to Maginos, who I want to put up onto the table. He can do so. And I think I will start him searching. I'm not worried about this giant group of people being able to somehow kill those roaches. So I think I'm going to start him searching. And he does find the teleport scroll. So I'll go ahead and add that to his search, or add that to his stash of cards, add it as teleport. Okay, and yes, it does require 3, so he's the only one who can use it. But he now has the teleport scroll, which is great, and I think he's going to hang on to the cheese that he has for now, and because these guys are only rolling 1 defense die. So I think Maginos is done. We're going to go to Tilda, who can't fail to move at least here, and she will Since she's rolling good defense, I'm going to put her in the same... Oh, she can't enter the space, I'm sorry. There's already 4 people in there. Okay, so she'll just attack one of the roaches with her 3 dice. She hits only once, and it's blocked. We come now to Lily, who I think is going to fall back. She'll fall back here, and she will fire at one of those roaches. She only gains a cheese, and that's it. And I think she's going to trade and steal Tilda's cheese, so that Tilda, who will now be one of the defenders, doesn't have to worry about it. It's Nez's turn. He's going to back up 1 and take a swing. He will gain a cheese and kill a roach, who does cheese the wheel, unfortunately. So we have 3 cheese on the wheel, but none of it came from the greediness of the roaches. It just came from their dice rolls. But I still want to hedge against that, so I am going to trade again with Lily and give her cheese so that my defenders don't have it. And then, unless he's got a... I did give him protect, but... yeah, I'm not too worried about it right now. We've got 1 greedy roach. He is going to attack Nez with his 2 attack dice. He does hit twice and wound twice. Yikes. Okay, these roaches are doing a lot more damage than they normally would. However, Maginos can go ahead and just shoot away, so he's going to do so. And let's see, he's got 2 cheese, and Lily has 3. I think he's going to... Nah, I've got 4 people who can try to squish this roach, so he's just going to fire at him with 3 dice. He does gain a cheese, which means he gains 2 cheese. And he hits twice, which means that roach is dead. He didn't cheese the wheel, so that roach is gone, and Maginos can now move down here in order to trade away. And yes. Okay. Now, one thing I just happened to be glancing up here, and I noticed that I've neglected to get the repaired image on this tile here, so that is not a connection. The connection is actually over here. In fact, let me go ahead and fix that so there is no confusion on any of that, and that is this guy right here. Okay, so as you can see, this is how the tile is supposed to look. I was thinking, are we going into the flip space? I thought I didn't go into those tunnels just yet, and that is in fact the case. We're going to bop over this way to get up into the kitchen. Okay. But that was Maginos' turn, and the question is, does he want to trade? And he definitely does. He wants to pass a couple of cheese over to Tilda so that Tilda can start healing people before we move on. So he's going to give 2 over to, actually, yeah, I'll just start with 2. And that'll be his turn, and then Tilda on her turn will spend her action to do major heal for 2 cheese, and that will take 1 off of Nez and 1 off of Lily. And because of that, she can't search on her turn because it takes her action, and therefore we come to Lily, and because we've already got 3 cheese on the wheel, I don't think we want to tarry here any longer. I'm just going to note that if I do pass back through this tile again, Maginos right now is the only one who has searched. So if I do come back through here again, I do have searches available for other people on this face of the tile in that eventuality. But Millie, at this point, is just going to simply move us on so that we don't add more cheese to the wheel here. And presumably, this I don't think is a special setup. We'll check the rules, but I think there is not a special setup. So I'm simply going to put us over here closer to the access point up here in case we do need to get up there and fight anything. Otherwise, it's closer to here versus closer to there. It doesn't make a difference. So I might as well be close to the access to the table in case it's relevant. All right, so let's clear the chat, and then let's bop over to the, after we clear the search markers, let's bop over the rule book and see if there's any special rules for this tile. And yeah, really all we got here going on for the kitchen is, well, not very much. It's got no special setup, so once again we are going to draw one of those few standard encounter cards that we have at the top of our deck. And we have a special search times 2. We have one special search for the fish hook and thread, which is handy dandy in certain circumstances, but it would be much more important if we were going into the sewers. But since we're planning not to, I guess I'll take it. But again, one of my objectives here is to try to get Lily something useful. So, not a big deal. The other special search is applied to the entire tile, and that would be for the Tinkerer's Treasure, which of course we need to complete the chapter. So I'm going to have to do a special search, but I can do it pretty much anywhere. And we just have a regular old encounter, so depending on what we draw and where we place them, we're not going to have to move very far on this tile. All right, so let's see what we draw for our encounter. We are still on, wow, what are the odds of that? We are still on page 1, and that sucked. We've got mousetraps, so we don't need to worry about, but we've got greedy roaches once again. That's pretty lame. But yeah, hey, what are you going to do? All right, we got greedy roaches, and we have 5 of them again. That means we can put them 1, 2, 3, and I guess 4 and 5. Because what I think I'm going to do is come over here and try to squish these guys with my melee people. But we're going to have to see who's going first. Oh, okay, a bit of luck here in that the roaches are going last. So I can at the very least try to manage who's got what cheese. Now Lily, first of all, gains 2 cheese upon exploring the new tile. And she has the preemptive shot ability, so she's most definitely going to take that. So she will spend 1 of those cheese on preemptive shot, and I think she's going to fire at, I guess it doesn't really matter. Well, I guess she'll fire at this guy right here. So she's going to roll her 2 attack. She hits once. We'll see what he does with it. He doesn't block, so preemptive shot has come through for me. Way to go, Lily. All right, Maginos on his turn does have a bunch of cheese. We've got a bunch of cheese in the party right now, so I could do something along the lines of chain lightning if I really, really wanted to. But, and you know, my surge is a centipede, which isn't the worst thing in the world. I'm more concerned about the time than anything else. Problem is, with my luck with chain lightning, because you roll only the 1 attack, I tend to miss and roll a bunch of swords and have it wasted, and it's 3 cheese. Whereas by contrast, I could fire a bolt and do meeps for 1/3 of the cost and be much more likely to kill 1. And then even if I didn't, somebody else could come in there. So it's a bit of a decision to make here. And on top of that, Maginos is going first in the initiative. And because these guys are up here, either one of them rolls a 3, they're going to be able to reach him unless somebody moves up closer, which is the last thing I want to do. So I think what I might want to actually do is hoard cheese on... I don't know. There's too many things. I think I'm going to spend cheese rather than risk it going on the wheel. That's what I think I'm going to do. So I'm going to trade with Lily, and I'm going to steal a piece of cheese, just 1, because I can only spend 3 this turn, and I'm going to spend all 3 to fire off chain lightning. I'm going to pick those 2 and one of those guys as my targets, and in case you had forgotten the way this works, you spend 3 cheese and you attack any 3 on the tile. or rather you attack a number of targets equal to your lore, which in this case is 3, and you roll a single attack with 3 dice looking for bows, but each one is going to defend separately on the assumption that you do roll at least 1 bow. Now it's a 1 in 3 chance of rolling a bow, so on average I'll get 1, but I tend to not hit that average as often as I'd like. Nevertheless, he's fired it off at those. I've declared my targets. I'm going to roll my 3 attack dice, and I did get 1 bow. So hopefully one of these guys at least fails his defense roll. We'll see how that goes. He blocks. He does not block. Therefore, he's killed, because that's how that works. And this guy does block. So remember, it's also a 1 in 3 chance of blocking, and that's the other flip side of that. But be that as it may, I did hit. I could just have easily gotten the same result by spending 1 on Meeps and hitting that guy with that same roll, and boom, Bob's your uncle. But I had the potential of taking out 3, and at least now the guy who is first in my initiative order doesn't have any cheese for them to pilfer, which is a good thing. We come now to Lily, and Lily has 3 cheese, and we only have 3 roaches left. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm definitely firing up here, and I think what I'm going to do is pass that cheese over. Well, let me first decide whether I want to do anything with it. She has keen eye, accurate shot, preemptive shot. I think I'll just do it. Yeah. She does have keen eye, which is kind of handy. So I think what I'm going to do is, yeah, I'm going to save that. I'm going to have her spend 1 cheese on keen eye and then roll a search. She would have found it anyway, but I increased my odds of it, and therefore she has gotten the Tinkerer's Treasure, special search. And I'm going to trade now with Nez, and I'm not only going to give him the Tinkerer's Treasure, but I'm also going to give him my 2 cheese, because I'm higher than him in initiative. We come now to Tilda, who is simply going to move over here. So she's adjacent to that guy, and she's going to try to clobber him with her 3 attack dice. She does hit once, and he doesn't block, so that guy is Deadsville, which is wunderbar. Okay, so now I've got 2 roaches. They're going to attack Maginos and Lily, neither of whom has any cheese nor any wounds. So, and that's only if they can reach. So I'm not in great peril right now, despite the greediness of these roaches. So I think what Nez is going to do is simply hang back and search. Find something. And it is the acorn helmet, which doesn't do anything at all except protect you from stun, which if I was worried about stuff, I would maybe take, but you have to have the warrior or the healer. He's already immune to stun, so it doesn't help him in the least. And he's also wearing a head item already. But I could give it to Tilda and protect her from stun, but I'm not anticipating a ton of stun as a danger here. So I'm going to discard that for cheese. And we come now to the roaches. We'll see how far they can move. And of course he gets a 3. And then we'll just see how far this guy can move too. He also gets a 3. Of course he does. And they're going to attack Maginos and then Lily in turn. Against Maginos, we totally whiff. Against Lily, we get only 1 hit, which she then blocks. So we are in real good shape. It is now Maginos' turn. He's not going to fire Chain Lightning again, I'll tell you that much. I think he's just going to do a regular old attack. And yeah, he's just going to fire off his ranged attack. And, you know, I could come here and use my blunt weapon. Remember, I would roll melee dice instead of ranged attack dice, but he would not be... he could roll 2 because you have to switch back to Maginos' staff, whereas I could roll 3 for the same average damage output and I'm more likely to roll cheese. So I'm going to stick with my ranged attacks, using 3 on the Scorching one. And I do hit twice, so that's a guaranteed kill. He blocks 1, but that doesn't matter, so that is a dead roach. And I think Maginos is just going to hang there like that, and Lily is going to... Actually, no, Maginos is going to move to the corner so that this guy doesn't fight him. And then Lily is going to fire at the roach, hitting once, which is then blocked. Tilda will then, because again, I'm not too worried about this guy. He can only wound Lily, can't kill her. Lily has no cheese. Nez is on top of that, very likely to kill him. And my objective here in bringing Lily in the first place, as I mentioned, is to get her something. So let's keep searching while we can. Oh well. Okay, Nez will try to smush the roach. He gets 2 cheese and 2 hits, which means he did smush the roach. And therefore we have a dead roach. Wow, we killed all 5 of the roaches without putting anything on the wheel. That's pretty cool. And because Nez was last, we can kind of linger here a little bit. But do remember, we want to get through here and over to the flip space. So I'm going to want to search with Maginos, but then I'm going to move us on, because if I wait until Tilda searches, then I have Nez, he moves us over here, and we do cheese the wheel then before we bop down to the next tile. So I'm going to have Maginos search, and that's going to be it for this chamber. He does find something, and it is a good thing that he finds. This is the Heal All scroll. Requires only 2, and I think we'll hang on to that because Nez and Maginos can use that in addition to Tilda, and it gets rid of pretty much any status or wound or anything on you. So that's a powerful card to have. It's probably worth more than a cheese. If nothing else, because I'd have to spend 1 cheese to heal a wound, and I already have 1. So we'll go ahead and keep that. We'll come then to Lily, who will explore to move us on over here. And if you recall, when we were here, Maginos was the only one who hadn't searched, or who had searched. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the search markers here, and then I'm going to put that back on him real quick to remind ourselves of that. And that really completes Lily's turn. I mean, she could move, but that's not going to help her do anything. And then we come to Tilda, and now we face the fact that Nez can move us here and flip and move us on. So Tilda now faces the decision of whether she wants to spend cheese or grab any cheese. And we have no cheese at all in the party except the 5 that Nez is carrying. Nez does still have 3 hit points. I'm not super worried about Nez, and I don't necessarily want to spend 2 cheese to heal him. Plus, if I was to spend 2 cheese to heal him, he could do it on his turn for a free action with first aid. So she's going to search. Not find anything after all of that babbling. And no, I'm not. I'm going to risk it. I'm going to have Nez just move us on. So we go to the flip space and flip. And here we are down here. We will once again give Lily 2 cheese for exploring. And we will now clear our search markers because we're not going back into that room. And then we will clear the chat and go ahead and bop over and check the storybook. And once again, there's not a lot to the dining hall tunnels. We come here, we're going to try to go out here. There are some mousetrap spots, but since we're going that way, even they don't matter. The only thing here is a whole tile special search for the grape, which, as I mentioned, is definitely something I want to get before I leave. But that's pretty much it. Let's bop over to the game and get back to it. Alright, so because of the fact that there is no special setup, we're going to draw our final standard encounter card and see what it is that we're facing. And this time it's a much more straightforward, less nasty, straight up 3 rats. And as such, they're going to be scattered amongst the 3 spaces, and we're not in real bad shape. The Surge is a spider, so that is something to bear in mind as we go forward, because spiders are not the favorite thing in the world, but certainly not anything to lose our lunch over. I'll go ahead and throw the rats in there in initiative, and let's just see where we wind up moving everybody after we shuffle up. And it looks like the rats are going second, which means Maginos has a shot to take out one of these guys. Or, once again, I could risk a shot at Chain Lightning. But I'm less invested in getting rid of cheese now that it's not going to hurt me on the cheese wheel. We do have 7 total in the party to play with. So he does have it, but I think what I'm better off doing is trying to kill one of these guys straight up, and then maybe, depending on who he kills, either moving away or potentially using invisibility so that these rats are winding up attacking other people. So I think what I'm going to do is fire at the guy I want to kill in the direction that I want to go and see what happens as a result, and then decide on that basis. That is 2 hits, which if I had used Meeps would have been a guaranteed kill, but he does have 2 defense dice, so we'll see what happens there. He does not cheese the wheel, and he blocks only 1, which is wonderful. That's a dead rat. Way to go, Maginos. So what happens as a result is Maginos could slink over here, and this guy would then need a 3 to be able to attack him. He's only attacking with 2 dice, so he couldn't kill him, even in the worst case scenario. And I think, therefore, I'm more worried about this guy, but I'm not too worried about any of it right now, really. So I think what I'm just going to do is have him move over here. And I think I'm going to have him search and try to get that grape and get out here as soon as I can. He does find it. We'll go ahead and add that to our stash here. We get one of the grapes in the deck, and I'll go ahead and put that into the party stash. And that way I don't need to worry about that. I can keep that for later in the game when I run into something nasty. Okay, we come now to the rats. We'll see how far this guy can move. 3 spaces, so he can go 1, 2, and 3. And then he will attack the closest that's highest in initiative. That would be Lily. He does hit her twice. She blocks once and therefore takes 1 wound. And this rat here can move only 2 spaces, so he moves 1, 2, and stops. And it's not a threat to anyone. He then comes down here, but this rat will bop up in initiative thanks to the aggressive trait. And we come now to Lily, who I think is going to try to kill one of those rats, oddly enough. And I don't see a reason why we shouldn't just all start trucking off over this direction. And so I think she's going to move. She can't fail to move 3, so she'll go 1, 2, and 3. And then she'll just shoot at this guy. And I don't think she's going to spend cheese on it. I think she's just going to fire at him normally and miss completely. We come now to Nez, who I will have move here and attack this guy. No, I'll have him attack this guy first. Okay, that's a dead rat, needless to say. And more importantly, he does not cheese the wheel, which is great. Alright, and we come now to Tilda, who is last in initiative, so if she kills that guy, it's not the worst thing in the world. So I'm going to have her come here and swing away. She hits twice, and he blocks only once, so that's a dead rat. Okay, that room was not a problem. Now Maginos could move us on, of course, or I could get a couple of searches first before Tilda moves us on. So I think that's what I'm going to do. He's going to pass. Lily is going to search, and not find anything. Nez now, actually. I am going in here. It is going to be a difficult encounter. I will fill up this space, however, so I'm not going to be in big danger. But the question is, do I want to risk Lily possibly being captured with that extra wound, or do I want Nez to heal her? I think I'm going to have Nez search because, again, we're trying to buff her up by trying to get her something that she can find and make use of. And it's a rest spot. Okay. Well, play immediately. If there are no minions on the board, you may remove all wound markers from each mouse and place one cheese on the minion wheel. That's actually an interesting choice, but I think I'm going to take it. It cost me nothing to get 2 wounds healed, and I am putting a cheese on the wheel, but I think I'm going to take that bargain. So we'll go ahead and put that on there. He will discard that card because I am doing okay time-wise now. I've only got 2 tiles left to go. Now the last one's going to be nasty, but still. And actually, now that I mention it, I think I want to come back and revisit something here real quick. Because if I bop over to the chapter rules here, I believe, when do we get? We had 1 to the page on the chapter end. If we create the horn, which is the other thing I need to do. Just getting the Tinker's Treasure doesn't do anything. That's what I wanted to check. But we also have to worry about Nez creating the horn. The way he does it is if he gets a 5 or higher rolling dice equal to his lore, then he creates the horn. If he doesn't, then he adds any cheese to the wheel that he rolled. And, you know, he might not have rolled any cheese, so it might not do anything. But it also takes his whole turn. So the question is, when do I want to do it? Now, if I stay here and linger for too long, I trigger a surge and I get a spider, I believe. And, you know, it's not the worst thing in the world, but I have to reckon with that, and I have to reckon with the fact that I'm very likely to get a surge here. Once I get that taken care of, I'm in pretty good shape. So I think what I might want to do is have Nez move. Now I think Nez was here on his turn. I moved him down here, but yeah, okay. Anyway, he searched on his turn, so he can't do anything. I think I'm going to have Tilda search. I think I'm going to potentially trigger a surge and try to get that horn done here while I have the luxury. And I'll risk a spider rather than maybe adding a spider to a nasty encounter in the next room. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So Tilda will go ahead and search. She finds something. And it's stolen cheese. If there is a scamp in the party, remove 2 cheese from this mouse's stash. But she doesn't have it, first of all, and there is no scamp in the party. So that just doesn't do anything. Now, she's going to discard that because she draw the card and it just goes into her inventory because that's the code here. But she can't discard that for cheese because it's not one of the cards that allows you to do that. So she just kind of, it's a negative effect that didn't hurt anybody, and that's pretty much it. Now what I think I want to have happen here is have Maginos stay back a little bit. He can't search, so there's not much for him to do. But Lily now can move down here, and I'm going to have her occupy this space, and I have Nez on this space, and that is because when my surge happens, the spider is going to come to the nearest available minion entry spot. If he's large, he can't go into a spot that's occupied by even one mouse, so that puts him over here, and I can kind kind of whittle away with him at range for at least a little bit when he shows up, in the event that he does. Lily now can search, and I don't think I want to blow cheese on Keen Eye for this, since I've got the luxury. I have no idea how long it's going to take Nez to do this, so I'm just going to have her search regularly, and she finds it anyway. And she gets the Mystic Tome, which is interesting. This allows me to look through the search deck, take any scroll card from the search deck, and place this card back in the search deck, then shuffle the search deck. But it requires a lore of 2. Now this is not immediately clear, because it's not listed as an item. It's listed as a special, but it's also not an event, and it doesn't say like play immediately or anything like that. So it's not clear exactly what this is or how this works. Because Lily doesn't have the 2 lore, does that mean she just gets it and can't use it and therefore has to discard it? I think what it means is she gets it and can't use it, but she can hang on to it. Because, for instance, anybody can find the Tinkerer's treasure, as far as I know. So this is going to be a little bit like that, and therefore she's just going to trade that over to Maginos and let him make use of it. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I think that's how that works. I could be wrong. And there's really nothing for anybody to do now except wait for Nez to do his business at this point. But actually, now that I think about it, when Tilda took her turn and I bounced around back to Maginos, I should have added a cheese to the wheel, and I don't think I did. So I think we're at 5. Nez now rolls 2 dice and tries to get at least 5 on those 2 dice. You got a total of 2, which is not enough, and he rolled a cheese, so that goes onto the wheel. That sucked. That triggers my surge. That puts us up a page. That was an accident. We'll get rid of that in a second. Clear that out of there. Okay. All right, so we're on page 2. We have filled the wheel, and we've triggered our surge, which, as you recall, was a spider. It's not going to say that anymore when I go over there, but we know what it was. And so as a result, we'll go ahead and add the spider to that space, and that's why I moved my mice around the way that I did. We are adding a new minion to the initiative track with no minions already there, which triggers a shuffle in the initiative, and it is now Maginos' turn as we hop into battle. Alright, so Maginos is going first, and I think he's going to want to lower this guy's defense, I think, for the whole party. I think that's pretty obviously the best play here. And I think what he's going to do is go ahead and grab some cheese from Nez, who won't need it for a little while. I'll go ahead and grab 2 while I'm at it. And I'm going to spend 1, but I don't think I can see him from here. I think I can see him from here. So he will have to come here, which does mean he is at risk of getting hit by that spider, but the spider can't kill him in 1 turn. So not too worried. I'm going to spend 1 cheese on Meeps to send Meeps after this guy. And then I'm going to fire away with my ranged attack. I gain 2 cheese as a result and hit once versus his now reduced to 2 defense dice. So he blocks it. It's now Lily's turn though. And Lily has the option of potentially, actually, you know what? Before I even did that, she has preemptive shot, so she would go ahead. I always forget it. But Maginos was going to do what he did no matter what. So we'll pretend she's doing this. When he's placed, she was in position for it. She could see him. She had the cheese. She'll fire at him before he lowers his defense. So she rolls 2 attack dice. Gets 1 bow versus his 3 defense. He does block it. He does roll a cheese, but remember, because of her bow, she gains that cheese as a result, so she goes back up to 2, although she doesn't hurt him. So it turned out to be nothing. It's now her turn, and she's facing him with 2 cheese in her stash, and I think she's going to spend 2 cheese for accurate shot, so that on this attack, he's rolling no defense dice. She's still only rolling 2, but hopefully I get at least 1 bow out of it. Nope. No such luck. Alright, well, that is Lily's turn. we'll come to Tilda, who is going to hang out in the same space in case somebody gets hurt and not do anything. We'll see how far the spider can move. And of course it's 3. So he can attack Maginos. And of course he hits twice. Maginos fails to defend. Maginos is the proud owner of 2 poison wounds. Isn't this going swimmingly? Nez's turn. The good news is Nez can come over here. And I think I corrected in a note in the previous chapter, but the designer of the game has confirmed that Meeps does move with the enemy. So Meeps is still on the targeted enemy until Maginos' turn. So Nez is rolling his 4 attack dice versus just 2 defense. He hits twice, and only 1 is blocked. So that spider has 1 wound, and remember, he's only got 3 hit points. We come to Maginos now, who can, thankfully, fall back a space and not be in danger, but he's going to spend another cheese to keep Meeps up and then attack, hitting once. And therefore we have a wound, another wound on the spider, and we have 1 piece of cheese on the wheel. We come to Lily, who does not have the cheese to do accurate shot again unless she borrows it. And man, I wish she could roll a bow. But because I'm going to have to heal Maginos now, I'm not awash in cheese. I think she's just going to fire normally. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't spend the cheese. Lily is not the most heavily damage dealing character. Let's leave it at that. Alright, Tilda can wait to heal Maginos until later because Maginos is not in danger. Actually, Lily on her turn is going to fall back before I go to Tilda, because that way the spider's attacking Tilda, who rolls more defense. Tilda now is going to swing away, or will she? No. She's going to hang out here. I'm going to risk Nez being the one that kills that guy, because it's 4 attack versus 2 defense. He's very likely to do at least 1 wound, and then I'll have 3 chances to move us on. So I think she's just going to stay there and not do anything. It's the spider's turn versus her. Hitting only once versus her 3 defense. She blocks it and gains a cheese. And then we come to Nez, and Nez is rolling 4 attack. Hitting only once. And it's blocked. Not going as well as I might have hoped. We'll see what happens when Maginos takes a shot at this guy. He again is going to spend a cheese, of course, to lower his defense, to reapply the Meeps. So rather than take it off and put it back, I'll just leave it there. And he'll fire his 3 attacks. He gets only 1 hit, but this guy's only rolling 2 defense. And it is blocked. Lily then, I think, again, in the interest of preserving cheese, because I got some healing to do, she's just going to fire normally. She does get 2 hits, and this guy is rolling only 2 defense. He blocks only 1. And as a result, Lily has killed the spider. So we'll go ahead and just get rid of that spider. Lily can sit there and cockily stroke her bow and pretend to be more awesome than she currently is at the moment. And she will bop over here and hang out because she's spent her action. And Tilda has got some healing to do. She only has 1 cheese, so I think she's going to borrow 1 from Nez. And actually she'll just borrow 1 for now. Therefore she's in possession of 2. She will need to be in the same space, I believe, for cure. Yeah, she has to be in the same space for cure, and that's not a problem. So she will spend those 2 cheese to remove the 2 poison markers from Maginos. That's her turn, and we come to Nez, who can't fail, despite his Lily movement, to roll at least 2. So he can move us here, and then move us on. We come then to the Courtyard tunnel, and we are now going to have to draw an encounter card. And we're going to check the rule book after clearing everything, clear the search markers and the chat and everything else. And we'll go ahead and check the storybook and see what lurks around these dark corners. Alright, so there's really not a lot to this tile. Once again, there is a single special search, and it is the rest spot, which is going to allow me to heal up if I do a search after the battle is completed. And of course, I'm successful with that. So there's really not much, and there's really nothing else to this tile, so not a whole lot to check. Now, one thing I want to mention is I was actually tarrying there towards the end, and one of the reasons I didn't bother to attack with Tilda on the last tile was I was thinking, one, I wanted Tilda to heal Maginos up before coming in here, so I didn't want her to heal him and then have to have Nez move us on, because then Maginos would have rolled in here and we'd be facing our first difficult encounter card with Maginos on 2 poison wounds. And who knows what we're going to be facing. He could be captured in the first move. So I wanted that. And then I was also thinking in the back of my mind, had the attacks played out a little bit better, maybe given Nez an opportunity to try to construct the cat's claw horn, which we need in order to win the game. Now, the reason I wound up moving on instead of having him do that is nobody else in the party would have been able to do anything. They'd all used their searches up and everything. So, first of all, time would be wasting and they would be doing nothing. Whereas potentially here I'm at least getting searches. But also I was thinking if I finished that tile up, I had 1 wedge of cheese. Again, I'm going into a difficult encounter. It gets that much harder if potentially not that you need to be like terrified of difficult encounter cards or anything like that. They're not that much worse. But why go into a difficult encounter with 4 or 5 cheese based on how Nez is doing rather than just 1 cheese? And what I'm going to do here is kind of see how this tile goes and potentially keep an eye out for an opportunity for Nez to try to build that thing in this tile when I have the at least this difficult encounter somewhat in mind, and I know more or less what I'm dealing with. So that was the thought process there. We need to now draw our difficult encounter card and see what comes of it. And we do have mouse traps, first of all, so we'll have to reckon with that because we are on such a tile. I'll put that one there and I'll just copy it because it's faster. Okay, so we got mouse traps in those 2 spaces, which is one way in which it might have been nice to have the fish hook because you can bounce over that, but bear in mind as well that Lily is immune to mouse traps, so she could be just the one who moves us on. I don't have to worry about it. But the encounter here, I actually got kind of lucky-ish. It is 7 of the bad boys, but they're just roaches, and they're really not super scary, and they are starting some distance away from us. Surge isn't earth-shakingly bad. I've faced centipedes in one before, so yeah, like I said, you don't need to be terrified by any stretch of the difficult encounter cards. So we'll go ahead and drop that, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. They're equidistant, so I'll just put 4 up here and 3 down here, and we'll shuffle the initiative. Lily gets to go first. And let's dive in to this here battle. First of all, Lily, when she comes in here, is gaining 2 cheese. And then she will spend 1 cheese on her preemptive shot to get a free attack at one of these bad boys up here. So she'll go ahead and fire off a regular attack that hits twice. That's a dead roach. And he did not give her cheese, which is what would have happened. But we're now facing 6 roaches, and lo and behold, it's Lily's turn. So I think what she's going to do is fire at a roach, shockingly. This time around she missed, but that's all right. Nez, I think, is going to hold back. Because I got 2 ranged attackers, and the roaches are not that likely to get towards me. Lily's got a little bit of cheese. I think I'm just going to give her maybe one more piece of cheese, because I'm thinking most likely I'm going to get, even if I don't kill any of these roaches, probably 2 of them are going to reach me. So I'm looking at Lily getting attacked once and Nez getting attacked once, and then Tilda getting attacked once. So I think what I'm going to do is just make sure everybody's got 1 hit point to deal with that. And I'm going to give Tilda a piece of cheese. And then I'm going to attempt to build the cat's claw horn. And that again involves rolling his lore value. Why is it phrased that way? Why doesn't it just say because Nez has to do it? Why doesn't it just say he rolls 2 dice? Well, there is at least 1 item in the deck that can increase his lore, so potentially he could have a 3 lore, and that would be one way that you can help yourself out on this particular chapter. But he doesn't have that item, so he's just rolling the 2. And again, he's looking for 5 or more on the numbers, and if he rolls any cheese, it gets added to the wheel. He got a 5, and he didn't roll any cheese. That is awesome. What that means then is we can go into the party achievements, or the story achievements, and we can change the claw to the horn. And what you would do physically at the table would be you would go to the claw, which is in your party stash, and on the flip side of it is the horn, and that's how you track whether or not you've accomplished that or not. The other thing that follows from that is we can take the page chapter end and move that up 1 page. So we're now 1 tile away from the last tile, and we've got 5 pages to play with just a few roaches in the way and only 1 cheese on the wheel. We're looking in pretty good shape. The only thing that's scary about this is that last tile is potentially nasty. So a TPK is by no means outside of the realm of possibility, even rolling in there at full strength. But that said, so far everything's going well. Everything's going swimmingly, in fact. And when we have had any bad luck, we've managed to mitigate it pretty well. But that was Nez's turn. It's now Tilda's turn, and I think she is simply going to search for the same reason I was going to have Nez hanging back. Only a couple of these guys can reach me. I'd rather get a couple of rounds of missile fire in while they're trying to reach me before I have to dive in. And, if Tilda moves up, she might kill 1, but she's guaranteed to get 2 attacks. Then I have to deal with these guys too. So she's just going to search. She finds something. Let's hope it's good. Interestingly, it's the Hammer of Nandin, which can be handy for Nez. It's basically the opposite of his current hammer. He rolls 4 right now when he's adjacent and only 3 if he's sharing the space. This reverses that. It's also something that she could use, which potentially is handy in that she could be swinging 4 instead of 3. But I don't really relish that versus losing her defense or anything like that. So this is definitely not going to be something I'm keeping beyond this chapter. But I think I might hang on to it and just throw it over to Nez, just in case he finds it useful during the duration of this the chapter to make use of that. And while I'm at it, I just noticed that I want to get rid of the Tinkerer's Treasure, which he used. I just want to discard, actually. I was going to get rid of the Tinkerer's Treasure, which he used in order to build the Cat's Claw Horn. Now, I don't know that it says in the rules that you discard it or put it back in the search deck. Normally when you use it, you put it back in the search deck. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that. That way I'm just going to throw it back in the search deck rather than discarding it just on the off chance that I managed to draw that, because that would be very handy, once again, for getting something for Lily. Alright, it is Maginos' turn, and we do have 4 cheese in the party, so one option for him would be to fire off Chain Lightning. But I'm not super scared, as I've mentioned, of these dinky little roaches. And the other thing I forgot is that he does have the Mystic Tome, which I can use, I believe, as a free action to grab this scroll. So why don't I look at that first? And let's pick a scroll from this deck. And I think what I want to do, again, not fearing this tile, but on the next tile, I know I'm going to be facing a whole lot of rats and a whole lot of roaches. I have the teleport scroll, which I can use to bop us to the safe space on the tree, which is very, very handy. But I'm thinking what I might want to grab is that super, super nice slow scroll once again, because I can take all the minions on an initiative card and make them lose a turn. So I'm going to do that while discarding. Actually, let me check the wording on this. The Mystic Tome, place the card back in the search deck. So instead of discarding it, he puts it back. So that goes back there. Okay. Alright, so now he has the slow scroll, but again, I think I'm going to save that for the next tile. So I think all he's going to do is just fire off an attack. And he does have the cheese for it, but I think I'm going to start saving cheese for that last battle, if I can. So I don't think I'm going to use meeps on some lowly roaches. So he's just going to fire 3 at one of these guys. Hitting twice, so that's a dead roach. Now the roach does unfortunately cheese the wheel in dying, but now I'm down already to just 5 roaches when their turn comes around. And this guy can only move 1. He can only move 2. He can move 3. He can only move 2. And he can move 3. So as anticipated, probably 1 or 2 roaches could reach us. They're going to attack Lily and then Nez in turn. That's 2 misses versus Lily. And 2 misses versus Nez. Alright, I don't even have to roll defense. We come to Lily, who I believe is going to start, I think we're going to start a mass movement this way. We can put some distance between us and some of those roaches, and we can get closer to that exit point, which I think we want to do. So I think she is going to, now if she moves into this space, she's stuck because she'll be outnumbered by the enemy, but she can go around, and so let's see what her movement is overall. She can only move 3. Well, that doesn't put her any further away from this guy than she otherwise would be. But it is still, he would still need 3 spaces to reach us. So I'm going to go 1, 2, and 3. And then now she's going to have to fire at a shared or adjacent space roach. So she's going to fire at one of these guys in case some of these guys can come down here and melee. So she'll attack one of those guys with her 2 attack dice and miss completely. Nez, his movement is 4. 1, 2, 3. I think he's going to stop. No, there's no reason to have him stop there. He'll go, yeah, he'll go over here and try to clobber that roach. Hitting twice, so he killed it, and he didn't cheese the wheel. Tilda now can move 3, which is kind of where I was going to put her anyway. She'll attack one of those guys. That's a dead roach. No cheese on the wheel. And Maginos now can move more liberally, so he, of course, rolls a giant number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll put him here, and he'll attack that roach with a ranged attack and miss, unfortunately. Okay, the roach's turn. This guy can't fail to move here. He would then attack Lily. And wow, He just puts 2 cheese on the wheel. Okay. This guy here can only move 1 space, and this guy can only move 1 space. Alright. So I think Lily is going to make sure she can keep a bead on this guy and yet still try to creep away. And I'm going to say from there to there is probably a shot, but I'm not going to fuss about it too much. I'll just put her here and target that guy. No, because I want her to be close to the exit. 1, 2, 3. She's guaranteed to get at least a 3. I'm going to put her here and fire at that guy. And all she does is get a cheese. Okay. Well, Nez will try to crush that guy before moving. And he succeeds with no cheese on the wheel. And then he can move back. I'll just put him here. Tilda. This guy needs a 3 to reach anybody. This guy can't reach anybody if she falls back. So I'm just going to have her fall back. And I will have Maginos fire at that guy before moving. That's a dead roach with no cheese on the wheel. Interestingly, I have not rolled much cheese here, but Maginos can't fail to get here, but we're still in pretty good shape. This roach is going to try to keep chasing us. He's not going to get very far. And we'll come around back to Lily again. I got to say, that looks to me like she can see that spot from here. This space was a little more questionable, but I feel like that, I mean, that's just grazing the very foot of that wall. I think she's fine. So I'm going to let her shoot. She hits twice. That's a dead roach. And he doesn't cheese the wheel. Okay. So I have the cat's claw horn. Lily, of course, is not going to be able to move us on this turn. And we have not... We've done 1 search in here. But we have 3 other people who can search. We have a special search, which I don't really care about because it would be the rest bot, which would heal us, which who cares. But here's the thing to consider. So in order to make my point, the decision I'm making is not super easy just because there's some nuances to it. So let's take a look at the storybook and see where I'm going. Let's take a look at the final tile so we can see what we're facing, and what I'm looking at here will make a little bit more sense. Okay, so let's take a look at the final tile. There's a lot going on here. We got 9 numbers to go through, but I'm just going to give you the gist. What you're going to do is you're going to roll in on the flip space as usual, and the tree works as we've seen before, so I won't go through the details there. The crow is still a thing, so everybody's always rolling their movement and potentially getting swooped on. You're safe from the crow here. You are also only going to have line of sight to the 1 adjacent tile, and you can't move onto any other. This is the only adjacent tile to that, and minions can't go onto it. You also, I've argued, cannot move from here to here or from here to here, but these smaller routes I allow to have movement, and again, your table may have a different reading of that. You've got 3 minion entry spaces, and the special setup involves 14, yes, that's right, 14 enemies, 6 rats and 8 roaches. You're going to place them normally, which means you're going to divvy them up, and if you remember, there is only 4 to a space, and there's only 3 spaces. You are always going to have to place additional enemies beyond those entry spaces. So the fact that this is phrased with an if is a little strange, but if there is not enough room, place them on adjacent spaces to entry spaces. So what you're going to wind up with is a bunch of rats and roaches scattered everywhere, some of them bleeding over into adjacent spots. The tree entrance is the other rule here. You have a story moment, and you have the crow still going on as usual. And then you're going to have a special surge, which is Brodie. Now what's really important is you want Brodie to come, but then you cannot defeat Brodie, or you really don't want to defeat Brodie, until after he has defeated the crow. Remember, the idea is he tackles the crow, pins it down, and you kind of use that leverage to force the crow to run your messenger errand and warn the Nextor kingdom. Therefore, this is why you're coming out here in the first place, you're going to have the crow swoop on somebody with Brodie on the map. Brodie will then immediately defeat the crow, and you don't have to worry about the crow anymore, but Brodie will still be a thing. However, you also have a special search on this tile, anywhere on the tile, for catnip, and remember, catnip is an automatic defeat of Brodie. The thing with this that is a little bit of a complication is, and then there's one other aspect to this battle that we definitely want to mention, but the special surge is Brodie, and special surges recur, and there's a lot of enemies on the map. So my concern would be I roll in here with only 1 or 2 cheeses on the cheese wheel, immediately trigger a surge bringing Brodie, get Brodie to defeat the crow, maybe get and use the catnip to defeat Brodie, but I still have a buttload of enemies on the map, and now the crow's not killing anybody for me. What happens then is most likely another surge, bringing Brodie back. Now I have to deal with Brodie too. This is why potentially going into the sewers and getting the fish scale might not be the bad idea on this chapter. But what I'm thinking, actually, because I have right now 5 pages worth of time to play with, and I'm not in any danger in the current room, what I'm thinking I might want to do is actually on purpose linger, take a chance on a few more searches and possibly get Lily something useful, and then trigger a surge, defeat the centipede, and hopefully roll out of that room with fewer cheese on the wheel than I have right now, so that this last tile is a little bit less scary. In other words, I'd like to get the extra searches for Lily's sake, but more importantly, this tile and a potential defeat or TPK is scarier to me than the page worth of time it's going to cost me to deal with a centipede in the adjoining room. So that's basically going to be my rationale. I'm going to stay, linger, search until the centipede appears, fight the centipede, and then move into here on page 3 out of 7 and have hopefully less cheese on the wheel so that this is a little bit more comfy for me. The only other element here is, because we have the cat's claw horn, now I guess technically you don't have to get this because you just need to have Brodie, who's a surge, up here, and then as soon as the crow swoops on somebody, when Brodie's on the map, Brodie will pounce on him and take care of him for you. If the dastardly crow swoops on an attack, any mouse or any minion figure while Brodie is on the board, immediately place Brodie's paw adjacent to that figure. That figure does not receive the wound from the crow. The dastardly crow is defeated, and you choose a player to read the following aloud. You get flavor text, right? So I read that to say that the crow is no longer active in the rest of the fight. But then Brodie's still there. Brodie's still a thing. You have to defeat him one way or another. The catnip is obviously the way to go. But again, he's going to show up again and again. So this story, actually, I've been thinking that you are required to do the horn. You're really not. However, the horn is a nice thing because when you blow the horn, a couple of things are going to happen. Some good and some bad, depending on where you're at. The first thing is basically what this does is it calls the mice who live in the tree to come to your aid. And this is why it's the Battle of Barksburg Fields, right? You've got all these mice coming up onto the quote-unquote ramparts and chucking acorns and other missile weapons at your army of enemies that you're facing. So on top of the crow kind of normalizing the combat a little bit and taking out some enemies for you, you also can use the horn to call down some reinforcements. And basically what's going to happen is you roll a ranged attack using 3 action dice against each figure on the board. So you're not rolling one only, but you're rolling against each one. You do not roll. You do not get to keep cheese or anything like that. However, when the minions defend, they do add cheese to the wheel. On top of that, once this is all completed, we're adding 3 cheese to the wheel. So we could potentially trigger 1, 2, or even 3 surges here all at once if we choose to take this option. But remember, if we're killing these enemies, they're going to be rolling for their defense anyway, one way or another. So we're going to have to reckon with that fact. But that's pretty much where we're at. We get basically a free 3 ranged attack against everybody on the map. And then at the cost of that is 3 cheese onto the wheel. Usually worth the bargain, although again, with a lot of cheese rolls, this can go south on you real fast. All right, so it's not an easy last tile, but I'm going to try to make it as easy as I can by staying here and tempting fate a little bit by putting one more chapter page by triggering a surge and dealing with the centipede. So that's pretty much where I'm at right now, and I guess that's defining what I'm going to do. And that's why Lily is not even probably going to advance here. I think she's just going to stay more or less where she is, so that when the centipede appears, he's going to come here rather than here, and keep him around here so this party can stay south of that mousetrap. All right, so Nez is the next person up, and I'll just go ahead and let him search. Not finding anything. Tilda has already searched. She has nothing to do. Maginos will search and find something. And it's the spear, which I think I will give to Nez just as an extra ranged attack option that he can use. So I'll go ahead and trade that over to... Oh, that was... I had Nez picked, unfortunately. So let me go ahead and take off his search marker. And I will give that to Maginos. But as a result, Nez does have in his possession that spear that I was going to trade to him anyway. Okay. We come to Lily. We add a piece of cheese on the wheel. Lily can search. Not finding anything. Nez can search and find something. And that's a cheese cache, which I will definitely take, not that I have a choice. And everyone is going to gain 1 cheese, which of course is nice and handy. All right. Tilda and Maginos, I think none of them are going to do anything, although Maginos, I might as well bop down here. And I'll move Nez back down here as well, so everybody's here, just because I want line of sight on that space where the centipede is coming. And then as we come around to Lily, we do trigger that encounter, the surge. We do advance the page to 3. We do discard the encounter card. And we do add the centipede to initiative and to the map. And again, he's being placed on the closest mini entry space that's available, which is here. And then because it's added to the initiative count, we're shuffling. And he gets to go first. So if he rolls a 3, he's piling in on turn 1. He rolls only a 2, so he comes down here. And I get a whole lot of happiness before he can hurt me. Nez, of course, especially being immune to stun, is going to pile in and try to hurt him. And rolls crap. All right. Thanks, Nez. Lily will face some options. And once again, I forgot to... I will retroactively, when placed... She will use her preemptive shot to fire at him and Gator and Cheese back. And then on her turn, I have to face the issue of whether I want to use accurate shot or not. I don't think I do right now. I have a fair amount of cheese, but I anticipate needing a bunch of it on the next tile, so I'm just going to fire regularly, uselessly, which is regular for her, and call it a day there. Then Tilda will also come in here and swing away, hitting twice. He blocks one, so he takes a wound. Now he's got 4 hit points, so he's only a quarter dead. Maginos, though, is going to spend a cheese on Meeps. And then fire. Ugh. The centipede now will attack Nez. But his attack is 3 dice. He does put 1 cheese on the wheel and hits twice. Nez defends. He gains only a piece of cheese and takes 2 wounds, but at least he is immune to the stun effect. It's Nez's turn. He's going to try to wallop that guy back. Alright, he hits 4 times, so that's a guarantee of 2 wounds. He'll do 3 wounds and kill this guy unless this thing rolls 2 shields with his defense dice. He does not. So that guy takes 4 wounds from a single smack from Nez and is therefore killed in spades. Way to go, Nezzy. Alright. We come to Lily's turn. Ideally, I'd like to have her move us on, but not with Nez on 2 wounds. So she is simply going to roll her movement. 1, 2, 3, 4. She can get next to the exit. She'll spend her turn searching, finding something. A button shield, which is potentially handy. Only if somebody needs to turtle, which they might want to potentially, but I think I'm just going to toss that for some cheese. And this girl just cannot, for the life of her, get an item that she can use. Alright. It's Tilda's turn, and obviously she's going to spend 2 cheese to heal Nez. And then we're going to take a look at who's got how much cheese. Nez has 4, Lily has 4. So she's just going to bop next. Well, she's with Nez. She'll trade with him and grab a couple of those cheese pieces in case somebody needs healing on the next tile. Now, Maginos could potentially move up here and move us out without putting cheese on the wheel, but I risk him tripping that mousetrap and taking a wound. And I guess at this point it's a question of whether I want to have a guarantee of 1 more cheese on the wheel or a possibility of a wound and 1 more cheese on the wheel. Now, his odds of triggering that are relatively low, so I think I'm going to take the chance and have him try to duck past that mousetrap and get us out of here, because even if he does get tripped up, that mousetrap will go away. So if Tilda moves here on her turn, she could heal him and move us. Well, she couldn't heal him. Well, in any event, yeah, I'm just going to try it with Maginos. The rule on this is you roll dice equal to your move value and try to roll a star. I think you want a star, or do you not want a star? Let me check the rule book here. Roll a number of dice equal to your move. If the mouse is a tinkerer, you can roll a number of action dice equal to your lore value. If at least 1 star is rolled, you move safely over the mouse trap and continue moving. If no stars are rolled, you trigger the bad effects. So it is good to have more dice. He rolls 2 dice. In other words, he's got essentially a 25% chance of getting screwed here. I'm going to take that just in the odds of possibly having 1 fewer cheese on the wheel. And that could really make a big difference in that fight, potentially. So we'll see how that goes. So his movement here is Sorry, my microphone there. Movement is 5, so he's got plenty of movement to get all the way there. 1, 2, 3, 4. And when we get to the mousetrap, we want to roll 2 dice. And he did, in fact, definitely get a star, so he's able to get there and move us on to the next tile. Way to go, Maginos. Let's go ahead and clear the search markers, clear the chat. We'll go to the background and flip that tile. We'll get rid of our mousetraps that are no longer a thing. And put our mice in position. We'll go ahead and have to start getting our enemies situated and everything. And we've already gone over the rules for this tile, so really we just need to kind of get the components together, and I think I'll do that off camera just to save time. Okay, so here we have this lovely little encounter in which we are facing 14 enemies. We've got 6 rats and 8 roaches, as we outlined before diving into the beginning of this chapter. It's a pretty big encounter here that we got to deal with. Now, when placing these enemies, again, the rats have to be evenly distributed. There are 3 spaces and 6 rats, so there you go. You then place your 8 roaches, and there's only enough room for 6 of them. So the other 2 you still want to spread out, but you want to put in spaces adjacent to your mini and entry spaces when the entry spaces are filled up. Now, you can choose where you're putting them. I've opted to put them here, and the reason for that is I have the grape. Okay, so this is really important. I want to kind of take stock of what I've got going in here, because this is a nasty fight, and you want to make sure you don't forget any of your resources. First of all, Lily does have that whisker froth just in case somebody gets, nicked really hard before Tilda can get to him. Maginos has invisibility, he's got Meepsy, and he has chain lightning, which is potentially a thing. More importantly, he has the heal all scroll, again could be life-saving. He's got the slow scroll, which could take all 8 of those roaches and make them miss a turn. He's got the teleport scroll, which is going to be pretty vital for us, I believe, right here in the first round, because that lets us bop off to the tree space immediately. Nez has his hammer and the thimble helm as always. He's also got a spear in the event that he wants to do a ranged attack. And he's got the hammer of Nandon, so he can share a space and still swing 4. Tilda's really not rocking anything, but I do want to note as well, on a tile like this, her fortify ability could come in real handy, especially again because our intention here is to get Brodie on the map and not get rid of him right away. The reason for that is he's got to pounce on the old crow, and we can't guarantee when the old crow is going to show up and have him pounce on it. So we might have to deal with an attack or 2 from Brodie, and fortify can be really important there. I do have the grape, and I do have the cat's claw horn, and what that is going to do is allow us to call in reinforcements. Okay, so really quickly I can search anywhere for the catnip. The crow is a thing which, as usual, any figure starting its turn rules its movement, and on a 1 takes an unblockable wound from the crow. If Brodie's on the map, instead of taking a wound, Brodie pounces on the crow, and the crow's defeated and goes away. And that figure doesn't take a wound, and on top of that, Brodie now has kind of accomplished our mission for us, and we can send him packing by defeating him normally, or potentially by using the catnip. The big deal here, of course, is there's a whole lot of enemies to fight, and this can go south right away, but very, very importantly, they are all exposed to the crow too. And they're all one-hit people. So even if we're doing nothing but just kind of avoiding them and not doing much damage, the crow potentially could hurt them a whole lot more than he hurts us. So, 14 enemies on any other tile might actually be worse than on this particular tile, even though the crow normally you think of as making it harder for you. But I cannot forget for 1 minute that I have the grape, and that is because there are 8 roaches on this map. And I want to be very careful to try to place it quickly so that I'm taking out as many as 4 roaches. Half of the roaches on this map I could kill with that grape. And that's why I wanted to make sure that I got it, if I could. The other thing to note is how much cheese I have. It's not a ton, but Lily coming into this map does get another 2, so she's up to 6, which is pretty handy. Alright, so that's pretty much where we're at. We've got the encounter set up. The special surge is Brodie, and another important element here is, yes, you win the game when you get Brodie to defeat the crow, but you still have to clear the courtyard tile. And that means that the special surge could potentially come around again, depending on where you're at. So I do have the cat's claw horn, and that is that's the other thing, is it's going to do a free attack basically against all the enemies on the board. They might cheese the wheel, and then on top of that, after resolution of that, you add 3 cheese to the wheel. So you could have a surge, and you could even be part of the way to the next surge in virtue of blowing that horn. So depending on how things go initiative wise, I might actually hold off on blowing that horn a little bit and see if we can thin the herd here a little bit, because ideally we get all or most of these enemies off the board before Brodie shows up and nixes the crow. One, the crow is going to help us a lot, especially if we can get to that tree. And 2, we don't want to defeat Brodie, have the enemies trigger another surge, and have Brodie come up and have to fight him again. So that's pretty much the gist of the considerations here. Really, all we have left to do is roll initiative and see how it shakes out. So let's go ahead and do that. Shuffle initiative right here. And that is unfortunate. The rats are going pretty soon here. The good news is Maginos is going before the rats, but I've got 4 rats right within striking distance of us. But before we do anything, of course, placing minions on the tile, we've got Lily here who has the potential to fire off a preemptive shot. So she's definitely going to do that, and she's definitely going to target a rat with that shot there. So she'll target one of the close rats here. She's only firing 2, but she does hit twice. So unless this guy gets 2 shields, that's a dead rat right there. He got only 1. So she, with her preemptive shot, has taken out one of the rats. That's excellent. Now we're only facing 3 rats right out of the gate, which is pretty handy. And she actually gets to take a turn before they go. But she does have to roll her movement at the start of her turn and see what she gets. She does get a 1, which means she takes a wound. That is quite unfortunate. I guess just because I could, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fire first, and I do want to thin these ranks here a little bit, and I'm worried more about the rats that are close to me than the rats that are far from me. So I think I'm going to target one of the other rats here, and the question is, do I want to use one of her abilities or not? And I think I do, just because, especially with her just taking a wound. Yeah, she just gained 2 cheese. I'm going to let her spend it on power shot. And again, what that does is, accurate shot. The target rolls 2 fewer defense dice. So she's targeting that rat, but she's got to hit him at least once. And she does. And she gains a cheese. So that's 1 cheese and 1 hit. That is also a dead rat. And he doesn't get to roll any defense. So Lily coming out strong out of the gate here. Okay, so here's the deal. The roaches aren't going to move for a little while. The rats are coming next. I've got 2 here that are going to come after me. One's going to attack Nez, one's going to attack Maginos. I was thinking if there were 3, she might move away. But no matter what, one of them's going to be attacking Maginos unless she stays here, in which case it's her and Nez. So I think she's just going to hold her ground. Even though she's wounded, she is rolling 2 defense dice, whereas Maginos is only rolling 1. So I'm going to chance her getting captured. But then again, these rats might roll 1 for movement as well, and they might totally miss. So it's a little bit of a risk. But yeah, I think she's just going to stay there, because when Maginos' turn comes around, he's going to wind up teleporting everybody over here. So that will just be her turn. And we come now to the Rat Warriors. They begin by rolling their movement. He gets a 3, so he can come here and attack Lily. He hits only once, which means she lived through it. She rolls her 2 defense, doesn't block, so she is now the owner of 2 wounds. The other rat does roll a 1 for movement, so the crow swoops down and wounds him. He only has 1 hit point, so he's gone. This guy also rolls a 1 for movement, and this is what I was talking about. Yeah, I did roll a 1, but we also have 2 of our rats so far have been taken out of the fight as well. So this rat advances 2. He's no threat to us. That is the end of the rat's turn, and they move up in initiative. But we come now to Nez. Now, Nez has a couple of things that he could do. Remember, we've got, in addition to the teleport scroll, which only Maginos can use, we do have access to the slow scroll. This is actually an interesting rules question that I'm not sure of the answer to. If I use the slow scroll, the text on the slow scroll is, choose a minion card from the track. Let's say I pick the roaches. Figures from that card cannot move or attack until the scroll's user takes a turn. Okay, all well and good, but do they still roll for movement and potentially get hit by the crow at the beginning of their turn? I could see an argument for either case. And as a result, I don't think I want to play that slow scroll, especially because when Maginos comes around, I'm going to teleport up here, and the roaches first turn aren't much of a threat. But it is an interesting rules question, and again, I could see it going either way. However, we do come to Nez, and he does have to roll for his movement. He does not roll a 1. I don't think I'm going to move him. And I think instead what I'm going to do is swing at the closest rat. And we're swinging for 4. That is 4 hits. That is a very dead rat who doesn't block or cheese anything. And then Nez, as a free action, can also drop the grape on the map. And I think I'm going to do that. And I don't believe the grape takes up space. I think it's a token, so that drops down there. And I mean, I could just as easily put it here, and I don't think it would make a difference because these are diagonals. So let's just go ahead and do that just to avoid any suspicion of impropriety here. We are basically gaming paladins here on this channel. And the reason this brings us back to the reason why I put the roaches here rather than say over here. They're going to roll for their movement. Some, or a bunch of them might get killed by the crow, but the remaining roaches, I want to try to get onto that grape. And so I wanted to try to maximize the use of the grape by putting it into a place that is pretty reachable. I've got 6 roaches, and if this guy rolls a 1, he's dead anyway. But basically, if any of these guys roll a 2 or higher, they're going to get onto that grape. I could potentially, with some help from the crow, I could potentially kill all of these guys. Remember, if these guys roll a 1, they're dead anyway. If they roll a 2, they're going to get onto the grape. So I've got a pretty good chance of, in fact, I'm guaranteed to kill at least 4 of these guys. Potentially, with the crow's help, all 6 of them could be gone on their turn. So that is a very handy item right here, and that is again why I positioned them here rather than here where they couldn't reach it. But we come now to the end of Nez's turn, and so we'll just move on to Maginos. And Maginos, what he's going to do is the teleport scroll is a free action. And as I said, he's not going to also use the slow scroll. And therefore, he really has nothing else to do on his turn besides trying to kill enemies or something like that. And I think once I get here, remember, when you're in the tree, you can only see that space. So I might have some time while I'm in the tree with a bunch of characters who don't have anything to do until the enemies close with me. So I'm going to save my searching for there. And I think what I'm going to do is just try to target this rat here and get him off the map because the roaches are significantly less scary. And so yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And in fact, there's a decent amount of cheese here, so I'm going to go ahead and just... Do I want to do that? Yeah, what the heck. I'm going to fire off Meeps on this guy in order to reduce his defense to 1, and then I'm going to roll my 3 attack dice. And I did not hit, but I did at least get 2 cheese back in the bargain. Then I'm going to use the teleport scroll. And what that basically does is you can use it at any point on your turn, and one at a time, each of the mice can be placed on any space on the tile that you wish. This is a space on the tile, and I wish to be there, so all of my party members are instantly whisked off to the tree, and that is the end of Maginos' turn. The roaches now take a turn, and I'll go through them one at a time. This guy rolls his movement. He rolls a 1 and is killed by the crow. This roach here rolls a 3, so he gets onto the grape. This guy here rolls a 2, 1, 2, onto the grape. This guy rolls a 3, he's onto the grape. This guy rolls a 2, 1, 2, he's onto the grape. And this guy here rolls a 3. He wants to move toward the grape. And that's really that's the way the grape works. Basically, roaches will move towards the grape. He can't enter the space, so he's just going to stop as close to it as he can. These guys too, even though they can't get on it, before the grape does its business, these guys still are going to be attracted to it, so they are going to roll their movement. But this guy is killed by the crow, and then this guy rolls his movement, and he's going to move 2 spaces, 1, 2, in the direction of the grape. Then, at the end of the roach's turn, the ones that are on that space, and again, even if I was here, these guys would not be attacking me in virtue of being distracted by the grape. And I guess the idea here is they gorge themselves on the grape, and maybe they die from overfeeding like goldfish, or maybe they just kind of wander off because they're fully sated. But Either way, the grape goes away, having taken out 4 of those roaches. The crow killed another one there and another one there. So we're down to just, after not even a full round of combat, we're down to just 1 rat and 2 roaches. So we're in pretty good shape right now. Not too bad. Lily having a strong turn, and then the grape obviously makes a big difference here. The crows helped out a good bit as well. But that is all the roaches moved. We come now to Tilda. She, I think, is going to, rather than search, I think she's going to make sure that Lily's okay. So she's going to spend her 2 cheese to heal Lily. Keep her in the fight, because she's number 1 in the attack order, so she's going to be the one taking hits from people. It just occurs to me, though, that I forgot to roll movement for Maginos. Wouldn't make a difference. He would do the same thing either way, but I don't think I rolled for his movement at the beginning of his turn. And there we have, he got a 2. So he was able to get through without a wounds. I know I rolled for Nez, and I obviously rolled for Lily because she got hurt. Tilda does not need to roll for the crow because she's in the tree, and we're immune from the crow inside the tree. So that is Tilda's turn, and we come now to the rat warrior, who is going to roll his movement and get a 2. He's going to go like so. And that's pretty much it. He does not move up in initiative because he's already at the top. Lily can't see him because she can only see this space. And therefore she's going to search. And I need to make sure I get that catnip, but I don't necessarily need it to be... I'm not that worried about it in the sense of spending a cheese on keen eyes. I think she's just going to search normally and see what she can find. And she does, in fact, get it. So we've got the catnip in our possession. We'll go ahead and put that into the party stash. This is going swimmingly well. I've certainly seen this tile not go well, let's put it that way. But yeah, luck seems to be on our side here today, which is great. And so we've done that. We actually have also used up the party card for the grape. So let's use that up. I'll just drop that down. Okay. And it just refers you to the rule book because there's too much text to fit on the card, I believe. And I think there was one other... Nez has a cheese cache in his possession, which is a card he shouldn't have kept, so we'll get rid of that as well. Okay, so that's Lily's turn. We've got the catnip now, and it comes to Nez, and again, Nez has nothing to do. He could come out here and try to wallop that guy. After all, he does have his defense reduced, but I don't feel a particular need to. And again, one of the things I want to do is try to search here to get Lily an item. So let's see what we can do there. So he'll just roll his search, and remember he's got the Thimble Helm, which helps him out a good bit. So he just draws this, and that's the Intense Cowering card, which at this point I am going to chuck for cheese. That's really not super helpful for me. And yeah, we'll back that up. Okay. And Magine. Meeps is going away, and he's just also going to search and not find anything. We'll see what happens to the roaches. They get a 3. That's 1, 2, and 3. And then this guy here rolls his movement and gets a 1 and is killed by the crow. And Tilda now will search and not find anything. The rat is going to be able to reach us unless he rolls a 1. He did not, so he comes here and he takes a swing at Lily. And he puts a cheese on the wheel and rolls a hit. And if you strain, you can hear him say something akin to "Revenge is mine." But let's see what Lily does with that. She doesn't block it, but she does get 2 cheese, which is going to help Tilda heal her back up. So she does take 1 wound, and that's the rat's turn. Lily now, having searched, can respond in kind. And, well, we've also got Nez, so I don't think I'm going to do Accurate Shot. I think I'll just trade with Tilda and give her a bunch of cheese, since I really don't have great use for it, and then fire regularly at that rat. See what comes of it. That's 1 hit, which he blocks. Nez is going to swing at that guy, rolling 4. Gets a cheese and 2 hits. And this guy is defending. And he dies cheesing the wheel, which is no problem at all. And at this point, you know, again, because I had so few enemies, I didn't really worry about it, but I could have blown the Cat's Claw horn and summoned the residents of Barksburg to rain enemy fire down on enemies, but it also puts 3 cheese on the wheel, which brings Brodie in real quick. And I wanted to make sure I got those searches in, which is why I haven't done it yet. And now that I've got 1 roach, I really could care less about whether the Barksburgers help me out or not. So I'm simply going to move on and have Maginos search. And again, that Nez has to create the horn, but anybody can blow it. All right, let's see what Maginos comes up with. Determination. When the hourglass marker moves on the chapter track, immediately add 2 cheese to each mouse's stash. So we are definitely going to get a surge, and that's going to result in 8 cheese for us. So I'm definitely going to keep that card rather than discarding it. So we come now to the roach, who's going to roll his movement, and he's killed by Monsieur Lacroix. So we're actually devoid of enemies here, and after Tilda's turn, we're going to start putting cheese on the wheel, which is just fine because Brodie's going to come along, and all we have to do is get out here onto the tile. We want to scatter, but we've got 3 rounds to do it. And get out here maybe when there's 5 on the wheel, get outside and scatter a little bit in order to mitigate the danger of Brodie, and then start rolling our own movement to see if we are drawing the crow to us, which will cause Brodie to basically win the game for us. But we're going to hold off on that. We come to Tilda. She's going to search, not find anything. Tick up to Lily, put a cheese on the wheel, and I'm just going to see if I want to move any cheese around or do anything. Lily and Maginos have heal if they need it. Nez has a lot of hit points. And Tilda can heal herself, so I don't really have too much that I need to do. Maginos also has the slow scroll in the event that I want to do something to Brodie. So, yeah, I'm in pretty good shape. She's even got enough for accurate shot versus Brodie. I might give her an extra cheese from Nez, maybe even 2, in order to allow her to do, well, just 1, I guess, for preemptive shot and accurate shot. I'll go ahead and do that. But, I mean, that's very, very minor. So she'll trade with Nez and grab a cheese. Nez and Maginos have nothing to do. Tilda then will search again. Find something. And it's the coin shield, which Nez could use one-handed. I believe both of his hammers are two-handed, so he can't use it. He's the only warrior. Nobody else could use it, so that is a discard for a cheese. And unfortunately, once again, we have not gotten anything for Lily after having exhausted our searches. So that didn't pay off for us, but Tilda does gain another piece of cheese. And we should get at least some level ups out of this chapter, if nothing else. And, okay, tick that up. We go to the cheese wheel. And again, nobody's really got anything to do with this last turn, but we've got 5 on the wheel now. So it is time to start scattering. So we'll see how far Lily can move. Only 3 spaces. So I think what we're going to have her do is go 1, 2, 3. Nez can move 3 spaces. We'll have him go 1, 2, and 3. Maginos will roll his movement, and that's 5. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then Tilda's movement is 4. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. I don't think she can span that. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, or 3 and 4. I'll do this. Now, some of these guys could have scurried, and that might have been a good idea, but I didn't think of it at the time. And Tilda, I don't want to scurry, and the reason for that is Brodie's coming. Now, it might be almost an insta-kill. I just don't know, but I don't want to bank on that. And I think what I want to have her do is, before he even shows up, I want her to spend 2 cheese on Fortify. Now this is interesting because this might also not help me at all, but Fortify says, use this ability anytime during your turn. All mice on the same tile as this mouse add 1 to their defense until this mouse's next turn. Now when Brodie comes in, because we have no enemies on here, we're going to reshuffle. Tilda could be first, and this is a waste of cheese. But she does have enough to redo it, and I'm just seeing now that that was a free action, so she can scurry. And actually, in virtue of scurrying, she rolled a 1, and therefore she's hit by the crow, which is quite unfortunate. But she can move 1, 2, and 3 and go here. And actually, do I want her to do that? I guess I do. It's risky. But yeah, the danger here was Maginos is going to be the closest to one of the entry spaces unless Tilda is. But Tilda's rolling more defense, so I guess I'll just plunk her down here. Alright, and then we'll just have to see how that goes. We tick up to Lily. That then triggers a surge. And a couple of things happen here. Of course, first the page goes up to page 4. We bring in Brodie, but we are also going to play that determination card that Maginos collected. So we will discard determination. And then each each mouse gets 2 cheese as a result, which is more than a level up, and some flexibility on top of that. The only real risk here is Tilda has the potential of being killed by Brodie when he shows up. Okay. Yeah, so we go ahead and we add Brodie. We'll add him to initiative. Add him to initiative. Get the token on the map. That one shows up in the closest entry space to the party. Just right there. And again, as a result of adding a minion with none on the board, we are shuffling the initiative. And Brodie pounces is first. Now the rule for Brodie pounces is he pounces on the square with the most figures on it. If there is no square that has the most, you look at all those that are tied for the most and go to the one that has the figure that's highest in initiative. So therefore, he's attacking Maginos. He's also going again right after Maginos, which is potentially problematic. That's very unfortunate. But what are you going to do? Okay, so that is a 3-die attack versus Maginos. That's 2 hits versus his 1 defense, except it's 2 defense in virtue of Tilda's Fortify. And he blocks 1, so he has taken 1 wound. And that was Brodie pounces. Fortunately, it's now Maginos' turn, but unfortunately, he has to roll for movement. Well, actually, I won't say unfortunately. This might hurt him. We'll see if it does, but if it does, that's actually a good thing. He rolls a 2. That means he can scurry away from Brodie. And then he's got a couple of options. 1, 2, 3, 4. He can't quite get to the tree unless he scurries, which he could do. But I think what I want to do is try my level best to get Brodie chases off of the map, if possible. And also make it harder for Brodie to chase anybody down. So I'm going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, like so. And I am going to spend a cheese on Meeps. He's going to fire at Brodie. He gains 2 cheese as a result. He also hits once, and Brodie is rolling only 3 defense dice. Brodie does block the 1 hit. But Maginos has the Heal All scroll, and I don't anticipate using that too much, but he also has the Slow scroll, so I think I'm going to use that instead. And again, this is a free action. Choose a minion card on the initiative track. Figures from that initiative card cannot move or attack until the next time this scroll's user takes a turn. So he is going to use the Slow scroll on Brodie chases. And that will simply prevent Brodie chases from doing anything. And the reason, again, I'm doing that is I'm not going to be able to keep that, so I might as well use it, and it seems like a good time to do so. So I'm going to discard that card, Slow scroll, and I'll just toggle this over here as an indicator. So he goes there. He can't move until Maginos comes around again. It's now Tilda's turn. She rolls her movement. She does not get a 1. And since Pounces is coming next, I think she's going to, well, yeah, I think we'll just keep playing this relatively safe. She's going to move here, and she's going to spend 2 cheese to heal herself and Maginos. We come to Lily, who now has cheese to fire at Brodie. And I think still she's going to fire at Brodie chases, even though it's held right now. But before she does anything, she's going to roll her movement. Not a 1. When you want ones, you don't get them, right? That's how that goes. She's going to back up a space and then fire at him. And I think she will activate accurate shot so that Brodie is now rolling only 1 defense die versus her attack. She does hit. He's only got a 1 in 3 chance of blocking it. He does not block it. So Brodie chases is now taken out of the fight. And again, we could kill Brodie pounces, but that would not allow us to win the chapter. So I need to not kill Brodie pounces and let him just kind of keep coming at us until one of us rolls a 1 for movement, at which point the chapter will be pretty much over. We just can't seem to get the crow to come after us right now. And now that Brodie chases is off the map, I don't really need to care too much about being scattered distance-wise. I just want to not share spaces. So I'm going to have him move over here next to these guys so that he can swing away if necessary, although it doesn't really matter too much. And we come to Brodie pounces, and it goes after the highest in initiative. That would be Maginos. He's rolling 3 attack dice, hitting twice. The cheese does not go on the wheel. Maginos is rolling just the 1 defense now and not blocking it, so he's the proud owner of 2 wounds. This is why Brodie's scary. Doesn't matter where you are on the map. We come to Maginos, and he has to roll his movement, and he rolls a 1. Okay. Now, before I did that, obviously what I would want to do is put away the Scorching Wand. I didn't say it, but that would be dumb not to do so, because there was that possibility, a very live possibility. And yeah, so he puts the wand away, and now he's hit by the crow and captured, except he's not really captured because the rule is when the crow hits somebody, you take Brodie's token and put him adjacent to the figure, and the crow is defeated and that mouse does not take a wound. So actually I didn't even run the risk of losing that wand, but it's something you want to bear in mind before you do something like that. You want to check your inventory. If you're about to get captured, put your keepers away. But let's put that back on because it actually wasn't being risked. Okay, so as a result, Brodie, as a result of the beginning of Maginos' turn, he rolls. He would have been swooped on by the crow. Instead, the cat hits the crow, and we have our story moment. The story moment is basically the mice come up to the crow who's being pinned down to the ground by Brodie, and they say, if you want to get out of here, if you want, this cat's working for us. If you, sure looks like it, right? But if you want us to let you go, you have to agree to carry this message to Nextor. And so they tie a message to his leg and get him to agree to fly off in exchange for letting Brodie let him go. And Brodie then turns around and says, give me my catnip, bitches. And because we've got it, because we've done everything we need to here, Maginos would at that point say, okay, free action, let's discard, let's use up the catnip. That allows him to defeat Brodie. So Brodie goes away. Maginos technically gains the Cat Tamer achievement. Not that it matters, because that is game over on a cleared tile. And that's pretty much it. So, we have managed to win the Battle of Barksburg Fields. The enemy looked really intimidating when he came in here, but man, they fell fast. The grape really helps. The Barksburgers can potentially help, but I find they add more cheese than they do damage, so I'm not hugely enamored of it. I like to make the horn more than anything just for the extra page, more than that it helps me with the Barksburgers. And then also potentially, sometimes you do just want to bring Brodie in and get him to start killing stuff for you, etc. So that's a thing as well, because it does add three cheese onto the wheel. But our strategy certainly seemed to work. We got out of here with a couple of wounds, but nobody captured, nobody lost anything. Still didn't gain anything from Lily. After all those searches in all those rooms, we never got anything she could use. But we do have, let's see, 3, 8, 11, 16 cheese. That is enough for just 2 level ups. But we do have 2 level ups here, and that we can distribute. And so let's go ahead and take a look at what we might potentially want to grab. Since Lily is really not loving life with her abilities or her items, let's see if she's got anything here. Aimed shot, add 1 to your battle. I mean, it does suck rolling 2 dice. Accurate shot I feel is usually better, but and then power shot, double your battle during the attack. That would be, she's rolling 4 dice, but it is at the cost of 3 cheese. Still, sometimes you just have to get some damage down. I mean, she's eventually going to want to take it anyway, so let's go ahead and give that to her. I don't think anybody have any abilities that really I want to get necessarily. Resolve is pretty nice. Excuse me, for Nez. But I sometimes want it for Colin as well. Feint, I pretty much don't care about because I don't have anybody who's running around with 2 weapons. Battle Squeak has a good utility, general utility. Thunder Squeak is also potentially pretty nice. I might want to just give that to Tilda. Since she's rocking that staff, she's doing the same damage as Nez would. The only thing Colin would be rolling 4 dice in the same space now that he's got the cat strength ring. But Colin has so many abilities and already can do so much, and he eats up so much cheese that I'd rather give it to somebody else. Let's see what options. Maginos could only add Mystic Blast, which is potentially useful. And she really only has Thunder Squeak as an option. Oh, so many decisions to make here. I can't make decisions. I'm a president. Alright, I am just going to go ahead. I'm going to give Tilda Thunder Squeak. Just to let her kick even more butt. Alright, that's our 2 levels. And I'm not going to clear the cheese. That'll be part of clearing up and getting to the next map. Obviously, I'll check the hammer, the spear, the heal all, and that'll be it. But she's going to be hanging on to that Whisker Froth. She's the proud owner of Power Shot. And that's pretty much it. We have been successful. I guess we get rid of the Cat's Claw Horn, but it's not really relevant any longer. And we are going to move on to Chapter 7, next chapter, and see where the mice go from here. But now that they've warned the neighboring kingdom, I think what we're going to start looking at now is what we can do to start foiling Venestra's plans before the war ever starts. So yeah, be sure to tune in for that. We'll take a good hard look at Chapter 7 next time. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you found it helpful. This last tile is pretty interesting, and I've seen it shake out a number of different ways. But it's, don't be too intimidated by it. It's not quite as hard as it looks rolling in there facing 14 because, again, Brodie can help you. The Crow certainly can help you. If you can get that teleport scroll, you're in really good shape. But slow scrolls, the set trap ability, the grape, all of these things can make a huge difference on this tile. All right, that's all we got for today. Thanks so much for watching. Fight true, brave mice, on your adventures, and I will catch you next time. Take care.